the growth in either individuals or startups or investments for startups was growing exponentially. And we predict, working with KPMG, this phenomenon is going to continue as people change whether they want to be full-time or they want to be part of this gig economy that we know is going to be growing. So therefore, when you look at AI, you have to look at it with the people aspect. So what we've been doing in Oracle is we've been working with KPMG, and they're very brilliant at simplifying processes. And what we've been saying is, what is it that we need to do differently to think about the way that we as human beings work in the workforce, to then make sure we can accommodate not only the transition of those roles that will be displaced, but also to think about the skills that we need for the future. Because a job is not going to be a job. I mean, I don't think there's many of us now that think in our organisations today that a job's no longer for life, right? We know that a job is not for life. We know we need to reskill. We know that actually moving around organisations is probably the norm for us moving forward. But if we think about our parents and the generation before us, this is quite a new phenomenon, right? I mean, I know when I joined work and I joined BT as a graduate, you know, what did I want? I wanted a good salary, a share price scheme that was obviously offering great returns, and a pension. I asked my colleague Abby, who's the new part of the millennial group, is that what she wants in her career? No. She wants an ethical company. She wants somebody that she can relate to in terms of purpose. And actually her career is around career jumping, taking time out. Because let's be honest about it, when I joined work, it was about getting on the mortgage. And when you were in, that was it. You were stuck, right? You were paying the bank every month. Now that capability, unfortunately, is not there for the people that are coming up behind us. So therefore, we need to think about it. So it's quite interesting that I was at the Gartner conference the other day, and they're saying that in terms of a manager's job, a manager, and that's most of us, right? 65% of what we do in our daily lives as a manager is going to be automated by 2024. 65%. What's left out of that in terms of skills and capabilities? Strategy and coaching and team management. So they're looking at what's available today and saying, well, what does that mean? So when we're having these conversations, where are we having them? Are we having them at the operational end? Are we having them at the CTIO? Are we having them with our strategy function? And where's HR in that conversation? Because all of these decisions that we're making about our platforms, our systems, our processes, ultimately will have an impact on our people, the skills that we need, but also the locations they're going to be based at. So what I want to do, given that the Office of National Statistics says that 1.5 million jobs will be replaced by AI potentially in the future, is talk about these 5 things and what you guys should maybe think about. And whether you're in the HR function or not, what I'd like you to do is to go back and have those conversations in your business and start raising the awareness now, because it's a bit like Blockbuster, right? I worked in BT. We used to sit there and say, you know, video streaming, it'll all be streamed at your local telephone exchange, it'll all be this converged device. And we all went, yeah, that's going to be coming, yeah. But we didn't see it, we couldn't visualize it, because we were used to hiring our DVDs and our videos from Blockbuster, and then it came, and now where's Blockbuster? And so we need to make sure as a community we start talking about this. So let me take you through the first activity in KPMG's model. It's around shaping. So now the forecast of a future of work is that we're not going to have jobs as such. That's not going to be for everybody, but we're going to see an increase of population of the gig economy. A lot of people who are sole traders, kind of opening up limited companies as consultants, taking project-based work. The reason for this is that what we need to do then is think about what's the capabilities that we need from a job moving forward. What's the outcome that we want people to deliver? Because what we're going to see is that people potentially won't have full-time work in this kind of percentages that we're seeing today. A lot of people will take a program or a project like a consultancy and then move to the next job, whether that's for a year, 2 years, or whether that's project work for 6 to 8 months. That's the forecast. And so therefore what we're kind of saying to our HR practitioners is when you think about the activity and the outcome that needs to be done, don't define a job description, define a capability. So if you think about the way that AI works through LinkedIn, etc., and Oracle has that connection with our talent and acquisition platform, what the AI is doing is searching for a set of skills, searching for a set of capabilities. And so therefore, when we start looking at the future of jobs or allocation of work, they're going to be based around more about a capability. What's the capability that you're looking to bring in? So we know two things that potentially are going to happen. We're going to move to a capability type of economy of work, and we're also going to be looking at the type of work, the duration of work. And so we know this is going to be something in terms of shaping. In order for HR to do this, they've got to really understand the strategy. So we know that bringing in new systems and new technologies takes about 12 to 18 months, and therefore HR can't remain complacent. It needs to be thinking about the medium to the longer term shape of the organisation. So this means shaping in two perspectives. One, on what is the kind of outcome you want the person to perform, and the other is what is the organisation. So I know, because I was an HR VP at BT, when it used to say, can you come and give us your 2020, your 2022 predictions, we'll go, well, this is all the projects I'm doing, I've got to get a 5% each year from my bottom line, it's more of the same. Well, we can't do more of the same, because where you're involved in AI or robotics or technology, it's not going to be the same. And therefore, we need to bring that link together of strategy, CTIO and HR together to think, what is the organisational impact? Because if this is not managed, you're going to end up with a surplus of people, and actually what you may want to do is to look at reskilling that. So sourcing. Traditionally in HR, you have a 4-box resourcing model, which looks at when you have a gap around capability, do you uplift skills, do you acquire, do you partner, or do you outsource? Well, I think HR needs to become aware of there's actually a 5th box now in our resourcing model. And does that mean that there'll be some AI components in there as well? Do you need a person? So we know with AI that the way that we actually kind of uplift our capability is changing. You only have to go online today and you will get this bite sizes of information that you can download through your mobile phone, and it's kind of going to be training just-in-time delivery. So those days where we all used to get sent off to a lovely country manor for a week, have a great time learning about, negotiation or facilitation, those days are kind of gone. So there's going to be a two-way pull here. Organisations and training organisations will going to provide learning, which is going to be bite-sized, just in time. And likewise, if we're moving to a capability type of ecosystem of work, us as individuals are going to say, well, in terms of my next move, I need this capability. How can I acquire those skills? So it's going to be a much more balance of push and pull. Likewise, we know where AI comes in terms of repeatable, volumized work. Actually, we're going to think about what's remaining. So the recommendations that both KPMG and Oracle says is, hey, whenever there is a role that requires empathy, whenever is that type of role, please don't think about that for AI. So an example that we use is around insurance actuaries. So if you take the insurance market, we used to have a lot of people sitting there working around risk, around insurance. Now that is predominantly done by AI. And that's fine in the majority of cases. So if I need to insure my car, that's one thing. What's not okay for an organisation is to replace that type of process where maybe there's been a car accident and somebody's been hurt or seriously injured. That's when you need to speak to a person. So what we're recommending to organisations is to have a think about, when is AI the right thing to do? When does it give you the cost efficiencies and the better business outcome and the differentiation? But when do you really need a person? So when it's to do with empathy or it's around having that kind of high stress level connectivity, please make sure that that's still remained by a human, because that's one way to ensure that you offer customer satisfaction in that area. The last one is around employee experience. If you look online, KPMG yesterday relaunched their kind of latest trends around people management across the world in terms of their new 2019-2020 trends. From their research from their global customers, what they saw was 95% of the CEOs were wanting to improve their employee experience. So if you think about it, it's going to be a big investment in upskilling and training. And whereas about 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about the customer experience, moments of truth, etc., we're now talking about the employee experience. And that's about how do you bring people into an organisation, how do you optimise their capability, how do you keep them trained, and likewise, when they want to move on, how do you exit them? And this is where AI really starts to play a position here. This is where the work that we do in Oracle looks at basically taking that employee experience from day one all the way through to kind of moving them on as an alumni, etc. I joined Oracle about 5 months ago. I was able to basically complete all my contractual work, start my onboarding and my training through one portal. And actually what we're thinking about, and some of the demonstrations we do in other conferences, is talking about the virtual onboarder. So kind of where you might use a virtual agent on your mobile phone, well, why can't you use that to show you around the office, that teaches you where HR sits in the office, or etc. And this is important to us because what we're finding when we speak to organisations is that often they'll buy bits of AI and they'll try and bolt it together at the kind of the platform end. And what we're finding is there's a user experience that's quite clunky. So what I want to see as an employee is basically that I have one seamless interface, whether that's on my finance systems, whether that's on my HR systems, whether that's on my supplier or procurement. Because there's nothing more frustrating, as we all know as employees, that this is seamless to basically book our leave, but when we want to order a mobile phone, we've got to get 3 lines of sign off and it takes 4 weeks, right? So that part is also really important in terms of how is AI going to provide that employee experience, and is it related, and what's your weak spot, and how does that impact? Is that okay to impact in terms of the reflection on the rest of it? The other part that we talk around is about workforce capability and agility. And this is really where we're asking the people in organisations, in workforce management, in HR, to form that triangle, whether that's strategy or the COO, but making the CTIO, you guys who are making decisions on your platforms of the future, what is it that you're forecasting? What is it you're predicting? And the reason for this is that we know that AI is going to come in and do some of the volumised, repeatable work. Where that happens, that means that people that do that work today are going to be displaced. But what that means is if we take our insurance actuaries as an example, you know, these guys have analytical minds, they're aligned to the organisation. We also know we have a skills shortage in things like digital AI programming, and they can be reused there. So actually by HR getting involved in these examples early on, what we can find is these people can be repurposed that are already integrated into your company's culture in order to make sure it's relevant for them moving forward and be replaced. At the moment, we don't think this is happening enough. So please, please, please make sure that you go home and engage with HR and make sure that your suggestions, your strategies about how you're going to bring in AI and other things like robotics, etc., machine-to-machine learning is also going to be considered in what they're doing too. So lastly, as we all know, having been on the journey for quite a few years, is that things will develop and things continue to develop. So in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, product development timescales are becoming smaller. And therefore, what we need to do is to ensure that we have the feedback loop. So where we are looking at people, where we are looking at skills, we need to ensure that when HR is looking at the data and the porting and the analytics, and platforms like Oracle HCM Cloud can give them that just-in-time analytics so they can make those decisions with the CTIO and strategy, is what does that mean for the future of the organisation? So the continual development of people, about what people are able to do, where people fit in the organisation moving forward, and how you get that balance of AI is an organisation conversation, to the point that we're actually saying that there probably needs to be a separate work stream, that the technology decisions around AI just aren't maintained within the CTIO, but there's that combined workforce that looks at it as a holistic. Otherwise, you are going to end up with a kind of bubble of kind of displaced people or surplus people with process, and then it's how do you cash the check on that to see the investment in the business moving forward. So just to kind of finish up then, here's my kind of final conclusions. The fourth industrial revolution is here. And we all need to get on board, and we need to work across an organisation as an ecosystem. So please do bring in your HR colleagues, because it's really important that they're having these conversations and they're understanding the impacts of what technology means moving forward. It will become potentially the fifth resourcing model as we see the capability of AI grow and people want to use more their mobile phones to do interactions, and that become the norm. The alignment to the business and the strategy is so key. HR can't just think it's more of the same. They need to understand the changes to the processes and the systems that you guys are delivering, and they need to understand what that means from both a people perspective, what that means for the existing workforce, what that means for the future skills requirement, and ultimately where you can buy these things that it's not like different suppliers, that's multiple skills and multiple kind of coverage issues for them is great, but also the location of those skills. What's the model going to be like in terms of permanent managerial skills and kind of part-time agile resourcing that they're going to need to bring in? The business and the people impact is to ensure it's managed and that transition is managed. We all work for organisations, potentially, or we work for ourselves. We need to make sure that where we do change these skills, where we are asking people to do things differently, that we manage people through that. We give them dignity and respect, because as we move to this kind of more fluid approach of people being independent, actually your perception and getting talent to come and work for you is really important. And your best advocates of who you are as an organisation is actually the alumni of people that have left. So it's important that we manage these things and we manage these transitions really well. And the only way that HR can do that is by actually working with you in a kind of structured way, and not kind of, you know, I've now got this process in place, we've now got it working, here's 20 people, can you do something with them? The other final thing is I'll be clear about is this piece around where I won't be the answer. Be clear about what's your differentiators. Be clear about what it is you don't want to disturb in your business. Be clear about where you need to offer empathy, and actually where somebody would want to speak to a person and not necessarily a bot. And therefore, but make sure that these things are sanct and these things are known within your organisation, and you kind of have these and make sure you stick to that. Because I know if it, like anything where I've been commercially, that actually when there's pressure on, people always try and pick at those pieces to make the cost savings. But sometimes actually if you make that and define those up front and say, this is part of our charter, we will ensure as part of our purpose that in these instances we will make sure it's a person, we'll make sure that they have this or that capability, means that these people are kind of held out and you can deliver your strategy, but also the customer and employee experience that you want. So that's kind of me in terms of a whip through of the five course model, the KPMG future of workforce management. There is going to be a joint paper on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to link in with me, that's available. KPMG statistics around what they see the future of work was published yesterday. If anybody wants to download that from the internet. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, I'm being told we're timed out. I didn't see the timing. But I'll stand at the end because I think we've got another presenter if anyone wants to grab me at the end. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.